Hospitals never sleep. Not really. When the lights dim and the machines hum in the dark, that's when death walks the hall again. Marek was the night security guard at an old hospital in Warsaw. His shift started at midnight, always the same. Check the gates, make rounds, log times. He hated one area the most, the basement. That's where the morgue was. It wasn't just the smell or the cold, it was the knocking. Every night around 3 a.m., Marek would hear 3 soft knocks from the steel door of the freezer room. Always 3, always spaced evenly. At first he thought it was the old pipes or temperature changes, until the night he decided to open it. Inside, 6 body drawers lined the wall, 5 of them empty. One was occupied, an elderly man who had died earlier that week. When Marek stepped closer, his flashlight flickered. The light danced over the man's pale face, and for a split second he thought he saw the lips move. "Let me out," he stumbled back. The sound wasn't loud, it came from inside the drawer. He slammed it shut and ran. The next morning, his supervisor scolded him for leaving the door unlocked. But when they checked the body, the elderly man's mouth was frozen open, and the inside of the drawer door was covered in bloody scratch marks. They ruled it a refrigeration malfunction. Marek quit the next day, but the new guard, he says the knocking still happens, only now it answers back. In Tokyo, there's a private hospital that quietly skipped one room number. There's no room 404 on the patient floor, because 4 in Japanese sounds like shy, the word for death. But back in 2009, before they changed the floor plan, room 404 existed, and something lived there. Kenji, a young hospital janitor, was assigned to clean it after a patient died inside. He wasn't told the details, just that it was a suicide. When he walked in, the air felt wrong. The bed was stripped, but the heart monitor was still plugged in. It was beeping slowly, even though there was no one connected to it. Kenji tried to turn it off. The plug was out of the wall. The machine still beeped. He left immediately. But when he reached the elevator, the doors wouldn't close. Behind him, a faint voice whispered, almost like static through the intercom, "You forgot to say goodbye." He turned back. The corridor was empty, except room 404's door was now open. That night, he had nightmares of someone tapping on glass in steady, rhythmic, like a heart monitor tone. The next morning, the nurse in charge told him, "Don't go near that room again." He didn't ask why. A month later, the hospital closed the room permanently. New signs skipped from 403 to 405. But staff still swear, if you stand in the hallway at 4:04 a.m., you can hear the monitor beeping from behind the wall. No power, no machine, no patient, just the heartbeat of something that refuses to stop dying. Renato worked the night shift at a São Paulo hospital ICU. He'd been there 6 years, long enough to see everything, or so he thought. The ICU had one corner window that faced the courtyard, an old part of the hospital where no patients were kept anymore. Every night around 2 a.m., one of the nurses would see someone standing at that window. A woman in white long hair, just watching. Renato laughed it off, until he saw her himself. He was checking vitals when one of the heart monitors flatlined. He rushed to the patient, old man, heart failure. As he called for help, he noticed the glass window behind the man's bed. There she was, the woman in white, staring in, her face pale, eyes sunken, and a hand pressed against the glass. He turned to call the other nurse, but she gasped, because the patient was already gone. The next morning, Renato asked about the courtyard. One of the older staff members said quietly, "That used to be the ICU before the fire. Years ago, a patient in that wing, a woman, had been trapped inside during a blackout. By the time they reached her, she'd burned alive against the window, screaming for help. Now, whenever someone dies in the ICU, staff say she comes back, standing where she died, watching the next one go." Renato transferred to another hospital 2 weeks later. But every time he closes his eyes, he still sees that window, and the faint outline of a handprint burned into the glass. They say hospitals are where life begins, but for some, it's also where it refuses to end.